All right, so there's tens of thousands of people in the crowd. Thank you all for coming. You did pick the right panel, definitely, because nobody here wants to hear what Ben Swan is saying. We have something far more important associated with cryptocurrencies. This is the Latin American panel, and I think we have three of the most important people that you could possibly listen to regarding Latin America. One, Eugenia Alcala in Venezuela. She headed up kind of the foot soldiers on the ground in Venezuela that got cryptocurrency kicked off, which led to 1,500 different merchants. I believe it's almost 2,000 now. She didn't do all the work, but she got the ball rolling. And then we have Rossello Lopez, who is with CoinBR. And, well, his shirt pretty much says it all. But if you're... You know, if KYC is a problem for you, well, it's a problem for him, but he actually did something about it. Maybe Brazil is more friendly to their, you know, the consumer than the banks. Perhaps maybe that was why it was easier for him than it is to do here. And then finally, we have Jose Rodriguez of Bitso, and he's been responsible for getting a lot of stuff going in Mexico and where he got started. So let's go ahead and let's start with Eugenia. Eugenia, how did you get started into cryptocurrency, and how did you get the ball off the ground in Venezuela?
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Eugenia Alcala. I am the founder of Dash Venezuela. And I started with cryptocurrency because I was, after I tried migrating to other country. I got sick. I had to come back to Venezuela. And then I found a country where the economic situation was a disaster. We had hyperinflation. We had exchange control. We had a lack of cash. We had also the system for paying with my debit or credit card. The POS system was broken. And not only that, but also the banks would, they limit the amount you can spend. Even if you have the money in your bank account, you cannot spend it like you want because the banks set some limits and you cannot get over those limits. So that means that when I have to go grocery shopping, for example, I have to use like 5 different debit cards from 5 different banks in order to pay for my weekly grocery shopping. So when I saw that, I realized that I could not live if I earn my wages only in bolívares. So I started researching how to earn money in other ways. I tried with US dollars, but for Venezuelans, it is difficult because we have this exchange control, so it's not easy for us to open bank accounts in other countries and to have credit cards in dollars. So even if I had PayPal account, I could not verify it, so I could not get paid in dollars. And that is when I started researching about Bitcoin and other cryptos, and I stumbled upon Amanda B. Johnson's show. That show on YouTube was called The Daily Decrypt, and she explained there all about crypto. And there I found Dash, and I fell in love with Dash, not only because it was fast and it was cheap, but also because it had the governance system, the DAO, the DAO. Mm-hmm. So I started to think, how could I make a win-win situation between Venezuela and Dash? How could Dash bring value to Venezuela, and how Venezuela could bring value to Dash? And that's when I started my first proposal in the governance system, and I proposed a cycle of conference for entrepreneurs, so we can teach the entrepreneurs and the merchants how to use Dash in order to overcome all of these barriers that we have with the deliveries. That was a real success. We started with the conferences. We had our largest conference. We had 1,000 people on. And also we had this activity called Dash City, where we have been training merchants and entrepreneurs how to receive Dash. And then in Dash City is like this entrepreneurs fair where they can sell everything with Dash. And then the participants of the conference, they got some giveaway, but they didn't go home with that. They practiced how to buy things with Dash. This is how we began to draw the attention of people, merchants, entrepreneurs, companies, and also other leaders who wanted to do something either similar to what we were doing in Caracas or complement our work. And they came to us to ask for advice, and that is how Dash Venezuela was born, to give advice and to help all of these leaders. Now we have alliance with 30 other communities in Venezuela only. And also, I believe Venezuela is a country with more successful projects for Dash, including a support center, including etc. There is a lot of projects in Venezuela, and the work of all these teams has made that Venezuela is the country with more commerce or the more merchants accepting Dash as a form of payment.
Even
the merchants, also NGOs who accept Dash as donations, and we are the #1 country that downloads the Android wallet for Dash. It has been a year of
right.
a lot of work, but also a lot of results.
Right. I mean, as hard as Eugenia, as hard as things are for you there in Venezuela, it's very easy for you to get this going out of necessity, basically, because there's no other option there. And obviously Dash is working because the government has emulated that. They literally copied the white paper from Dash right down to the word Duffs, and that's what they're using for their alleged government cryptocurrency called the Petro. I want to switch to Rosello Lopez a little bit and find out what's going on there. He's Rosello, are you there? Rosello. Okay, we lost Rosello.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you are. Okay, so Rosello heads up CoinBR. Rosello, how many merchants and stores are you using in Brazil as an exchange point for CoinBR?
Well, we have a few products running out, but on the, let's say, online e-commerce right now, we have in total, I think, something close to 300 clients that they are already using, not just Dash, but they're using different also cryptocurrencies, because we have an API that allows them to use any cryptocurrency that we support. So then, but on a physical store, it's just starting, I think, in a physical stores that maybe 100 users in total, and but this is just a start. And mainly they use all the cryptocurrencies that we also provide, and they are getting there and more and use more. But here's the funny part, which for us, it's, of course, for us, I use cryptocurrency, we understand, but at the beginning, the merchants or the stores, they ask to say, I want everything in fiat. I want on a ship money. I don't want the good money. They always ask for the ship money at the beginning. So then when they understand how the cryptocurrency works, and especially merchants that they travel the world, or they need to go to Europe, they need to go to the US or Canada, then they start to understand, hold on a sec. Every time when I need to convert the shit money, which called reais, US dollar, euros, and all that thing, when they need to convert, and then comes a lot of tax, a lot of fees and everything. So now the merchants, they start to say, I don't want the shit money anymore. I want the crypto, because the crypto I can exchange it anytime. And also they understood that it's very important that they understood the amount of people that are paying crypto is not that big yet. So we're not going to change their financing. But in the same token also, because the fiat, the cryptocurrency right now, the price is quite low compared with was like a year ago. So they probably are seeing that the price is going to start to go up again. And that became automatically an investment. So the merchants, as they start, of course, they ask for the shit money because they are now used to the technology. But and then after that, they for sure, they will change for the good money. And then they realize, hold on, it's better for me to keep Dash or to keep Smart Cash in my wallet and then use it as, if let's say I have to pay a provider from China. Oh, there we go. Then it's easy. I don't have to beg to my bank to do a wire transfer from you. I don't have to go there and fill out 20 different forms and pray for them to send the money. Now they have the power to send the money anytime they want without asking any permission. So now we can see more and more merchants start using. As we just don't operate only in Brazil, we also operate in Paraguay. And we see in Paraguay, there is a city in Paraguay where we have our mining farm that it's a huge place for selling electronics. And a lot of Argentinians, a lot of Chileans, a lot of Brazilians, they go there to buy that stuff because tax in Paraguay, it's only 10%. If you're a foreigner, then you don't pay tax at all. So then what the Brazilians, they do, because the country, Paraguay and Brazil, we have the borders, what they do, they travel over there, and then they buy the equipment, they come back to Brazil. Some of them, they resell that in Brazil. Was a huge problem in the past, traveling with more than $10,000 on their pocket. So it's not that easy to travel with that kind of money, and was a problem on immigration, was a problem to do the payments, and sometimes even fake bills, all that. What happening now in Paraguay is that the last day, they started to use the cryptocurrency. Most of the stores in Paraguay are accepting cryptocurrency because they realize there is no limit anymore to travel with money. All I need is my mobile with me and then pay it. And all these stores in Paraguay on Cidade Leste start accepting Bitcoin, Dash, Smart Cash, and the different currencies as well over there. And now it's the same thing happening in Brazil. And then the reason for it is because the owners, they realized that they need to import China. How do they pay them? They pay crypto, easier and faster and reliable, not with the situation with the shit money called the US dollar.
Right. You know, something I'm going to be asking Jose is statistics. So how many people are unbanked in Brazil? What's a percentage of people that are actually unbanked? Because that's the focus of cryptocurrency really, is to try to reach the unbanked and serve the underserved.
Well, in Brazil, it's the number is not that big. It's really small. Another day, we also did here, just checking how is the market at the moment. We come up with ridiculous numbers, like less than 0.5% of the Brazilian population is using cryptocurrency right now.
No, I mean traditional banking. How many people in Brazil do not use traditional banks?
Oh, that is huge. That is like over than 100 million people is not using traditional bank because they don't have access to it. And most important, they go to the bank and they say, I want to open a bank account. The bank just say no.
So I mean, this is the opportunities that we're trying to convey here for Latin America, and why it's important for cryptocurrency to try to find its roots there is because there are so many people that are unbanked, and a lot because they don't have the proper ID or whatever to open a bank, and a lot just because they do not trust the banks. And speaking of trusting the banks, do you want to kind of tell the story about how they were shutting down your accounts and how that resulted?
Yeah, well, that's a really important number. Like when I said, more than 100 million people here in Brazil, they don't have access to bank accounts. That is bad. And the funny part in Brazil was voting today for the president. And that is amazing how the amount of people they vote. How can that be possible? Someone can vote, someone can elect the president, but doesn't have a bank account, and they have to beg, especially when the banks belong also. There is 4 big banks in Brazil that they belong to the government. And even those banks, they were there to support those people. And then even them are saying no to people to have bank accounts, and then come to us that we are trying to help more and more to give digital accounts, to let the people pay bills. Today, in our platform, it's possible to pay electricity, to pay water, to pay tax, to pay anything with crypto. And then we allow them. We are connecting the world's financial system with the future financial system. We are doing that right now. And the banks, of course, they're going after us. Of course, they are shutting down our accounts. Well, they realize shutting down our accounts, Coinbase accounts, are not going to be something easy. We're not going to be something simple. Because we prove in a court of law that what the bank are doing is not saying, because the money laundering or because the tax evasion. It's not about that. It's about trying to kill us before we become big enough to shut them down. So the way we are proving in the court of law is saying, listen, this is the situation. Every single time that someone sends money to me is sending inside the same bank. We are trying to come up with a solution that every single transaction is inside the bank. So if the bank are saying that transaction could be something related to laundering money, well, he should know before the user who gave the bank account will do the transaction. So he's part of it. And the way we show everyone, especially here in Brazil, we saw a few months ago, a lot of large corporations doing real laundry money. My last time in a court of law, I asked Itaú straight, let me ask a question. Are those companies still with a bank account in your bank? Because last time I checked, they do have a bank account there. And it was proved that they were involved. And why you didn't shut their account? Why do you just shut down them? Why the account is still open in your bank? And me, I never been in any investigation. We never been involved with anything. And then they're telling me that I am doing laundry money? Come on. There is the proof. And they are losing every single case that I have in court law against the bank. As you can see in the t-shirt, they're getting fucked and real fucked. I mean, I don't know if there is any underage over there, but that is the thing. We do not. We're not going to accept what the bank is saying. And right. The KYC excuse, I'm sorry. Satoshi Nakamoto said something. I don't need to know, and I don't need to trust on the part A or the part B, and they don't have to trust me. When you start to asking for IDs, proof of residence, proof of this, proof of that, DNA, and whatever the hell they're asking right now, you are invading my privacy. Why do I have to give you my ID? I don't need to. This is something, the KYC, that is pure bullshit. Because someone who has a bank account, the KYC was already done. If someone, have a bank account, the amount of documents that the bank is going to ask is so much. Come on, you cannot even think about it. And here's the most important part. When they ask for proof of residence, all right, every single bank in the face of for today use an app on the mobile. From what I understand, a mobile can give you the precisely location where you are. Why do you need to prove that you're living in somewhere when you can trace the guy using his cell phone? Right. The bank has that information. The technology is right there. So that is another proof that is bullshit. I will fight every single day of my life against KYC, and I am in a situation right now that we should show the banks how things works on the crypto world. And we cannot just accept that.
How did that result for you in the lawsuit? I believe you won how much?
Well, one of the banks already owe me almost $1.2 million at the moment. The other one, it's about 1.5. Well, very soon I'll be able to buy a nice mansion and maybe a couple of Ferraris, a couple of Lamborghinis. But here's the thing that I told Itaú especially. Itaú is already $1.5 million. That's how much they owe me. The day that I receive that money, I will buy in cryptocurrency and I will sell for 20% less than what the market are selling for all the clients who had an account on Itaú, just to piss them off, just to show them a lesson.
I love it. This guy's a rock star. So the gist of it is he's refused to do KYC in Brazil, and the banks have shut his accounts down as a result, and he won a lawsuit against the banks, and they were forced to open your bank account again, right?
Yeah, well, they tried. I mean, but again, we have a bank account in 6 banks in total.
Okay.
All of them are won the lawsuit. Okay. Every single one, including the governmental bank.
Right.
Which, but here's the other issue. Most of the exchanges that they are starting, they don't have the kind of money behind them because an attorney costs a lot of money. And it's not just one attorney. You need to bring with you an attorney to speak about financial. You have to bring another one that his specialty is about, I don't know, KYC. So we're talking about 4 or 5 attorneys to help you in a case, to show to the court that you're doing, it's 100% legal. There is nothing illegal. So that costs a lot of money. So imagine for a startup that they are trying to do something right now. They don't have that kind of money. So what they will do? Well, they will accept, and that's it. They will just, well, and I think in legal fees, we already passed $1 million just in legal fees. But I mean, like I told them, my friend, if you want to bring me to the fight, all right, let's go, let's do it. I'm not just gonna leave it to happen. And because of it, what are we doing right now? We are setting up a kind of bank account, and we will provide bank account to all the other exchanges, including when my good friend over there, Jose, wants to have his company in Brazil with a pair in a BRL with reais, he will be able to do, because I will provide him my bank account with a proper API, which the banks, they don't do it. We create one to help them. So we'll provide banking to any or to all exchanges all over the world that they want to have a pair in reais. We'll give them an API to receive and to pay payments. And here's my message to all the banks. Suck it.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and switch to Jose now. So Jose Rodriguez works with Bitso, which is the main and the largest Bitcoin exchange in Mexico. Before that, you started with another one. I forget the name of that one as well. But before that, you actually worked with the banks. So I mean, what was the deal with that?
So before going into cryptocurrencies, I worked for 14 years in stockbrokers in Mexico and the United States. And at the beginning, it was my dream job. I was very happy. That's the place that I wanted to be. I was so excited about everything we did there, until I started finding so much corruption and crimes inside the institutions. And I ended my career in banks actually working for the area and city group called CSIS, which is Investigation, Security, and Intelligence, working against crimes. The first crime that I found was my boss stealing $10 million from Citigroup. He got 22 years in jail. After that, it was like the whole sewer opened up, and we had one of the biggest frauds in the world, which was called Oceanografía. So they made this huge fraud with a state-owned oil company with one of their providers, and they actually faked some documents and stole $450 million from Citigroup. After that, they're having so many crimes that they had to bring in people from the FBI and the DEA.
Did anyone do KYC on those guys?
No. I mean, they sent in fake documentation and were able to get loans for $450 million. And you have other unfortunate cases in Mexico. For example, unfortunately we have the largest cases of money laundering in the world. You have HSBC, you have Citigroup, then you had this cases 10 years ago with Bacovia Bank, which actually one of the top cartel guys had an exchange and Casa de Cambio to exchange money, and he was the owner, and he was settling through Bacovia Bank. So that is something that I got really, really disappointed about the financial industry, and I got to see so many crimes, and I got to see so many people doing things wrong, and When you go to, they told me, how can this happen if you have all this process, if you have all these people looking at your transactions? I mean, people get corrupted very easily. What you would find out is that the actual compliance and legal department was friends with the promoter, and they would invite them out to lunch, and their customer would invite them down. So they start bending the rules, and they say they do a lot of things for KYC and to prevent crimes, but that they actually don't. And that's when crimes start happening. And what Rosello was speaking, and what has also happened with us, is that for all cryptocurrencies companies and for all fintech companies, I mean, they threaten us. They tell that when we see that any of you do money laundering or don't do good processes, you're going to go to jail. And there's no bankers in jail. And they launder money every day, and they only get fines, and they only get fines for a percentage of what they laundered. So, I mean, there's an inconsistency there, and if the real objective was fighting money laundering and drug money, those guys would be in jail. And they will be helping our industry, which is making and creating more technology and creating better processes and creating better money and better systems for people to actually pay and settle with their money.
Right. And as I mentioned with Rosello, was the numbers. I believe it's 52% of people in Mexico don't have a bank account.
Over 60% of people actually do not have bank accounts. And here's another number. This is from Bitso. This year we surpassed 500,000 users. And just to put things into perspective, there is less than 300,000 accounts in all stockbrokers in Mexico and all the stock exchange. So we almost have twice as much accounts as all the stockbrokers of the stock exchange. And that also gives you an idea of who has access to the actual financial services. It's not even 1 million, there's over 100 million Mexicans, and there's like 250,000 people with accounts with stockbrokers. That's nothing.
Wow. Can you talk a little bit about the current situation with the regulations that's going on in Mexico? Because it's getting worse. They're starting to attack crypto now. Right?
Yeah. So we started working with the fintech industry about 2 years ago to create a regulation. And actually, Mexico is going to be one of the first countries that are going to have a law. They just passed the fintech law, and we're negotiating the terms. The bad thing about this is that they're trying to regulate every fintech company and fintech startup as if we were a bank. And as Rosello said, most of the companies that start don't have as much money, so you're killing them before they are born. And actually, with us, right now we have over 60 employees, and over a third of the company is working full-time just to meet all the regulations and all the processes that they're asking for us. So instead of us developing our business and making it grow and creating new products and services, a third of a company is just trying to negotiate with the regulators and see what is happening and what we need and all the requirements and all the paperwork and all the bureaucracy. And that, I mean, that is going to kill a lot of the fintech industry and the cryptocurrency industry too. I mean, we have like over 90% of the volume, which for a business is great, but the industry needs to grow. And with these types of regulations, what it's going to do is slow down for new competitors, for new companies to come into the industry.
Mm-hmm. So what about new users? How do we get people in Mexico to understand that this is a great way for remittance? And talk a little bit about remittance. What are the numbers for remittance going across the border?
So actually, the remittances is the first and the largest income in Mexico for US dollars. Since like 5 years ago, it surpassed oil, which used to be the first income in US dollars. So remittances is the largest income in Mexico for US dollars. So there's a huge opportunity, and something that we have been doing is, we started as a Bitcoin exchange. Right now we have 8 cryptocurrencies, and what we started creating was financial services for people to have actual, the people that don't have banks can use us instead of their bank. Actually, yesterday I was speaking with Jeff, and he told me, like, I get my accounts shut down and frozen like every 2-3 months. So I use Bitso for all my payments, and that's great. And there are people that instead of using their bank, they use us. We made an integration with a Mexican payment system. So each customer that opens an account with Bitso, we create a banking account for them. And they can transfer to anyone in the financial Mexican system anytime, 24/7. That is something that banks could do, but they're not doing it.
Yeah, I actually used Bitso service in a little town in Mexico. I was rebuilding a center, like a community center, and he handled all the payments for me. That way we were able to actually go to a construction place and buy all of our materials with cryptocurrency, where he did the transaction on the other end. Let's ask Alcala. Eugenia, are you still there?
Yes, I am here.
Oh, okay.
By the way, Danny, the Zoom is displaying something telling that there is 7 minutes left for the meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
So-
Just real quick, if you can talk about remittance, how big are remittances into, and I want to ask that as well of Rosello, how big are remittances into Venezuela? Did you hear me? How big are remittances into Venezuela?
Eugenio, can you start?
Oh, okay. Oh, the meeting is stopped. Oh, yeah, I've already paid that. Oh, well.
What are we going to do?
Can I start?
Yeah.
I didn't hear the question very well. Can you repeat it from me, Rosello, please? Because I don't hear Danny very well.
Okay, he's asking how big is the market for remittance in Venezuela and how it working with that. Well, you have to be really fast because I also have to be really fast. We only have 6 minutes left.
Yes. Okay. Well, the market is very large because there are numbers are not clear about how many Venezuelans have left the country. There are many versions. Some versions say that there are less than 1 million Venezuelans out of the country, and other studies say that there are over 4 million Venezuelans out of the country. All of them, of course, when they get settled and they get a good job, they want to help their families, their friends that are still in the country, and they have to do it through the black market because of the exchange control. If they do, if they were to use the official rate, they will lose, like, I don't know, maybe 300% of the value of their money. So they have to do it through a black market, and we are teaching people to do it through cryptocurrencies because they are going to be holding the value of their money, and also the time will be very, very fast because they wouldn't have to wait for the time of the banks.
All right. Well, we're running short on time, so let's get that answer from Rosello as well, and then we'll probably just end up finishing up with Jose. Rosello, how big are the numbers for remittance into Brazil?
All right. Yeah. Well, here in Brazil, money into Brazil today is about it's close to $1 billion a year for remittances, to money coming in. It's a little bit more than $1 billion out of Brazil when it comes to sending money overseas. So it's a huge market that we're looking, especially the main countries that send money to Brazil is Japan is the number one. Then the number two is the United States, and then number three, few countries in Europe. But for the number that we are seeing in Brazil, it's a huge number. That is official. Those are the number of official that goes through the central bank, goes to the bank. Of course, if you go to the black market, I would probably say it's double of that. That is the only black market, and from the current. And there is one thing that I think Brazil, it's a bit better than the other countries, which is in Brazil, we have something like a digital banking, which if you do not, any company can do, right? As long as you don't pass the $100 million a year as accounting, but as being a way for people that also being able to have a sort of bank account, which is called a digital. So we are applying for it. CoinBR will be, I think, probably the first one that will combine cheap money with cryptocurrency. That will kind of help people also to be able to do those kind of transactions. Way in and way out also be a great possibility. But the numbers is quite good. I guess it's a market that should be taking care of it a little bit better.
Yes, we are trying to teach both ends to use crypto. So the people who are out of Venezuela to send crypto to the people in Venezuela, and the people in Venezuela empower them to buy directly in crypto in the commerces that are accepted. That is our first goal. But if they need the bolívares, we teach them how to use the platforms that they can use to change to fiat. And that is what we are trying to do, to educate.
And you sent me a picture yesterday of how to increase your profits in the Bolivar 2,300%.
Maybe.
No.
I'm not
So
sure because
she
the
sent me a
market
picture. I'll tell you about it.
the
She sent me a
market
picture of a.
changing very fast, so I don't know. I was yesterday with Sam Barbosa from Brazil, who went to Venezuela in February, and with Rodrigo from Brazil
Right.
also, who went to Venezuela in June. And when Sam was in Venezuela, the dollar was about I don't know the number now, but when Rodrigo went to Venezuela, it was 10 times more expensive, and now it is 10 times more. So from February to today, it has been 100 times more expensive, the
Right.
dollar in Venezuela.
Wow. What I was referring to, she sent me a picture of this handbag that was crafted out of the Bolivar. And if you handcraft crafts out of the Bolivar, they're worth 2,300% more than they are as money themselves. So
Yes.
let's get.
No, we have
Yeah.
seconds. We have seconds.
Yeah, because we have seconds, I just want to say thank you very much to all. And you guys, then you can share my WhatsApp contact with the audience with no problem.
Yeah.
I will always try to answer every single question that they have. And Jose, pleased to meet you. Pleased to see you
Yes.
again, my
All
man.
right. Yeah, you guys
Thank
look
you
for
very much.
You can-
either CoinBR
Contacting our
and
Twitter. Thank you very
Dash
much.
Caracas for these guys. I don't know how much time we have left, but Jose, let's get back into it. Talk a little bit more about what's going on with the whitelisting and all that right now in Mexico, and what we're going to have to do to overcome that.
So the Mexican Central Bank had the great idea that that they were gonna whitelist every cryptocurrency that exists for them to be listed in an exchange. We told them it's a very bad idea. Not even us know all the cryptocurrencies that are out there, and they're gonna have someone, according to them, whitelisting cryptocurrencies. So what they're gonna do is they can decide in 6 months if we should delist a coin. So they can say in 6 months, I don't like Bitcoin, you have to delist it. I don't like Ethereum, you have to delist it. Or we can say we wanna list a new coin, and they're gonna have to approve it.
What's it going to take to get them to not like Ripple? I'm kidding.
But it's very unfortunate, and it's going to also slow down this industry. I mean, they cannot even handle their own business. How they're going to handle our business and whitelist everything that is going on, and they're part of the law. They're in the fintech law, but now they have bigger problems because the Mexican Central Bank system of payments got hacked twice this year through 5 different financial institutions. So now they have their hands full just trying to see what they're going to do about their hacks. And we're changing government. So they're trying to see also if they're going to keep their jobs or not. So they're just kicking this proposal that they invented to whitelist all the cryptocurrencies. But they also did something very bad to us, which was a very low blow. When they got hacked, it was a very good coordinated attack, and they sent out hundreds of transfers to random people and to the people involved with the attackers. So they confused the bank of which were legit and which were not. And then they coordinated hundreds of people to go to bank branches and withdraw the money in cash. So all the hackers, the attackers, what they did is, hey, you have to withdraw $3,000 in cash, and I'm going to give you $200 for that. When the day that I call you, you will have to do that. So they coordinated the attack, and in one day they called hundreds of people that they already coordinated for this attack, and they withdrew the money, and they just send it out to the hackers. But so they didn't have any contingency plans. They didn't have any. What is funny is what they asked banks and financial institutions to do, they didn't do it for themselves. So they didn't have any contingency plan. They didn't know how to handle this. They had a very bad communication. They fired the people, the person in charge of the payments and whatever. After that, they made this dumb restriction that if you want to withdraw over 50,000 pesos in cash, you have to wait 24 hours. And they also sent out all the payment systems to contingency mode and cut down the schedule for banking. So they slowed down the whole economy. And now if you want to withdraw more than 50,000 pesos, which is about $2,500, you have to wait 1 day, always. And then they had the great idea that, what about if people use cryptocurrencies in the next attack? So they had the great idea to publish this paper and to make it a law that if someone receives over 50,000 pesos in cryptocurrencies, they would also have to slow down for 1 day all the transactions, and that they would need to close down, and if someone did not comply with that, they would close down all their banking relations. So the day that they published that, all the banks and all financial institutions wanted to close all our accounts. We have to go with lawyers, with lobbyists, and with the central bank to say, what the hell is this, and why did you do that, and why didn't you measure the impact that this could have? We have over 500,000 users, and there was panic in the Mexican market, and Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrencies were from 10 to 20% below the market because all the people were panicking that they wouldn't be able to withdraw their money. So they created panic. So they harmed the economy of people in the crypto space and in the normal space.
So who's dealing with the banks on the crypto side as far as talking to them and getting them interested in this? Because what I'm thinking here is, what are the numbers in Mexico for developers? Like Mexico has the largest ratio of developers for jobs, right?
I mean, there are a lot of developers, but there aren't many in the fintech space. So what we do is we have to, actually banks ask us, hey, where do you get your blockchain developers? Like, we don't get blockchain developers. We have to create them here inside.
What I'm getting at is like here you see Wyoming, Colorado, Nevada, all these different states are reaching out through government and telling them, hey, we need to be more friendly to crypto because we're bringing fintech jobs to our state. Do you have anybody in Mexico that's trying to make the state realize this?
Yeah, so with all this fintech law and with all this boom in fintech in Mexico, it's been like on the last 2-3 years that this started. And now there are some companies that are starting to grow very fast. You don't have things in Mexico like Venmo and PayPal and all these systems that you have in the States. These are quite new in Mexico. We also didn't have like Square. Those things are quite new in Mexico, so it's an industry that's growing a lot right now. And they also are noticing that because we are creating jobs. We are creating income for people. We're creating a new industry. And also, most banks are hostile, but there are some banks that are really interested into this industry. Actually, BBVA Bancomer was the first one that bought a fintech company. Mexican Bank is an investor in Bitso, and now other banks are starting to invest in fintech. So you have these two stands. You have like the Mexican Bank Association on one side trying to shut us down with all the big banks, and then you have some banks that are actually making investments and that are actually seeing the future with us.
Like currently it's OXXO, Walmart, La Farmacia, all these different ones. That's the banking system in Mexico right now. Okay, are we done or?
Need to wrap up here real quickly because they're going to have to do some setup.
Okay, actually they're going to be using the same computer on that. So does anybody have any questions for Jose?
Yeah, I just have more of an observation. So I'm outside of the industry, but I used to be in the communications industry, and so what we'd see in that industry was that in the olden days, the monopoly phone companies would try to crush all the new entrants, and we had to explain to the regulators that these guys are not regulators; they're just players in the industry. And so I think it sounds like in some of these countries trying to change that around so that the banks don't behave like regulators. And in the case of Brazil, you have to kind of enforce that point of view. It's difficult because they have a lot of political clout.
Yeah, they have a lot of power. Actually, this week in the newspapers came out the head of the an association said that the actual fintech law was lobbied by banks and the regulator, not by fintech companies, which is very unfortunate.
Jose, I got a question for you. What's your opinion on the new stable coins that are coming out? Are they going to be a part of your exchange, and are you going to see people using remittances for those?
Yes. Actually, we listed TrueUSD in Bitso. So we listed that before the presidential elections because there's always a lot of volatility in Mexico when there's going to be some elections. So we actually listed TrueUSD, and we are using not only stable coins, but actual cryptocurrencies. For example, we have Ripple, and we are part of the xRapid, and we also do remittances with Bitcoin. And we have, something funny also happens. Normally, when you send money into Mexico, we have a different exchange rate. There's like this arbitrage opportunity, so you actually make money with the exchange rate. So one way would be to use TrueUSD, and on these stable coins, that's the one that we have listed. The other one that we use are actual Ripple or Bitcoin. And you actually don't need the stable coin, but because what we do is we automate the buy and the sell in both ends. So there's no volatility. So you buy in one end, you sell on the other end, and then you have your exchange rate and you have the money passing in. And we have even made remittances to India in less than 2 minutes. A bank takes a week.
I have an observation with this too. I've been working in Central America, specifically in Honduras, for the last 5 years on starting up special economic zones called ZA, Zones for Economic Development and Employment. And to go with a telecom observation and with what we're seeing with the banks here, it is the regulators are in bed with the banks, and the banks are the regulators, and it's kind of like the end of Animal Farm. You look around from the table and you couldn't tell for a pig from person. And it really is that. So what Honduras did was fascinating, is they hit a regulatory reset. So our zone uses Delaware law and uses U.S. judges in order to administer that law inside the zone, and then any contract that you create inside the zone has comity outside in Honduras. So it's a pretty powerful thing. So it might be an avenue forward for Latin America to get kind of around this endemic corruption that's, it's not just Latin America. I mean, in the U.S. we kind of cloak it up and make it a little bit prettier, so our pigs are prettier, but it's still there. But it might be an avenue forward for other countries to look at.
I mean, we have people full-time lobbying. I mean, we have people hired from public policy, political policy, full-time with that. The new government, according to them, they're going to push fintech, so we hope they're going to relax a little bit with all this regulation and with the relationship that they have with the Mexican Banking Association. So hopefully, he said that he was going to push fintech because he sees that we are actually generating all this employment and all this industry, and it's going to help the country develop what banks haven't been able to develop in the last 100 years.
Okay.
Thank you very much.